Hey everyone, and welcome to Cary's Garage. On this episode, we're going to do Memory Lane, Episode 2. On this episode, we're going to check out some more vehicles from my past. Mostly, all of these were Volkswagens. I really got big into collecting Volkswagens for a while, especially when I was a teenager into my early 20s. So we're going to go through chronologically some of the Volkswagens I ended up picking up, and we're going to do 5 on this episode, but 2 of them were actually wrecked parts vehicles that I had picked up. So we'll go ahead and check those out. The first one of this episode was the 4th vehicle that I ended up buying. I actually sold my 69 Mustang and saved up a little bit of money here and there when I was like 16-ish, 17 or so. I think it was about 16 when I bought it. And this one is the 1963 Volkswagen 11-window Combi. It was bought brand new locally in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I had found it when I was just cruising around, actually down in a little town, which I ended up buying a house in recently. And it was sitting in this guy's yard. It had been parked since the early 1980s. I think I bought it in 03, 02, 03-ish time frame. It's kind of foggy on some of those details. But it had been parked because the clutch throwout arm had been broken. The guy's son actually had taken it and joyrided it without telling him and broke it, and he was pissed off and parked it and just never was touched again. Then I ended up picking it up and did a lot of work to it, rebuilt the entire brake system. The engine was really bad on it. So I had put in a couple of different engines in it, and then at some point I ended up getting a completely rebuilt 40 horse, a 1200cc for it, which is about what originally would have had. So I went ahead and put that in there and still kept it all 6 volts, which for the most part worked all right. And I drove it for a while. It was very slow, very, very slow. But it was a really cool bus, and I actually really missed this bus. But I ended up selling to a good friend of mine locally, and then he sold it to a guy, and it's now in the Netherlands. So go ahead and check that one out. First picture that we have is what it looked like when I found it. Got it towed over to my friend's place. It was stored at his house for quite a while. And put the engine at his place. It was a bad engine. It ended up developing a really bad rod knock. And then over time, I just kept doing work to it here and there, and put the rebuilt 40 horse in it, and then just kind of drove it around for a while. So we got the interior. I was going to convert it into a camper, so I had that later camper bed in it. And yeah, it was a really cool bus. I really do miss it. The next one that I ended up buying was a 71 passenger bus. It had been wrecked. Had no engine or transmission, if I remember right, but it had a lot of good parts. I ended up stripping this thing for a lot of stuff on that 71 Westie hardtop I had. So it was a pretty good parts vehicle. And, back in the day, you could pay a couple $100s for it or something. And then I ended up getting a 63 15-window Deluxe from some people locally, and it was thrash. It was a complete garbage bus. It had been rolled at some point, so the whole roof was actually tweaked. It had the corner windows, which I ended up selling out of it, and then I sold the whole bus for a couple of $100s. Now with what split windows are selling for, somebody probably would have restored this bus. I mean, I have no idea whatever actually happened to it, but it was pretty disgusting. Then we get into a 3-car package that I ended up buying. One of which was a 71 Hardtop Super Beetle, which I don't have any pictures of. I think it was actually from one of the hard drive crashes I had many years ago. But there was also a 73 Squareback that was originally orange, but somebody painted it green and did electrical tape pinstriping. It was really weird. And part of the green paint started coming off, so the orange was underneath it, and it was very, very awkward to look at. Did not have the original engine. It had a Type 3 single port in it. I never actually got that car running before I ended up selling it. It was a really cool one. If I ever get another Type 3, I want a much earlier one than this one. And the 3rd car in that package that I absolutely loved the most was my 72 Super Beetle Convertible. It was originally a sunburst yellow color, but somebody had painted it this gunmetal gray. I ended up putting a top on it. I wish I had some pictures of the top install. I'll have to dig around. I don't think I have those anymore. But it came with a brand new top, all the parts for it, and a VHS how-to video. I think I got that car even before YouTube was around, so I didn't have much reference points, but I did have a VHS tape. and just kind of spent a couple of weeks, and I got the top on it. And actually, I started driving that car on my 18th birthday. I cracked the engine case on the 71 Westy Hardtop, so the Beetle I was pretty much my only car for a while, and I drove it for several many years. I pretty much never put the top up on that car. It was always down. I just loved driving it so much. Had some rust in the pans, but it was such a great car, such a fun driving car, and I really did enjoy it. It kind of was my first convertible, and it was absolutely fantastic. In this particular set of vehicles, I was slowly starting to buy more and more project cars and really neat vehicles. Like I say, I was really super big into Volkswagens for quite a many years. So a lot of the cars I bought were Volkswagens. Then we'll get into the transition from when I started getting out of Volkswagens and getting into some other more interesting cars, and that's should be coming up in the next episode. We've got two Volkswagens I bought, and I started getting some other stuff. So that'll be really cool to check out and seeing that progression. But I think that'll about wrap it up for this episode with these particular cars. Thanks for checking out the channel, watching my memory lane. So I've had, I think, 150, 160 cars in the past 17 or so years. So I've got a lot to make content on for this memory lane. And it's really cool to kind of check out the progression. And, I look back and, if I had the abilities I have now to be able to work on cars with some of these other vehicles, it would have been very different. But I was fairly young, and I was learning while I had these, and it was a really cool journey. But I say thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. See you guys next time.